Well, my name's Cynthia Croker. I grew up in a place called Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Well, my name's James Croker. I grew up on the edge of the outback. I was about 40, 50 miles out of Canberra, which is the capital of Australia.
My name's Jack Langenhausen. I was born in Scarborough, and when I was about 4 or 5, we moved to Uxbridge, Ontario, on a small hobby farm.
I'm one of the artistic directors of Motus O Dance Theatre.
I'm a co-artistic director of Motus O Dance Theatre. I also still perform, and I'm the costume designer.
No, it's a 7-day-a-week job, actually. It's there's no doubt about it. If you want to be sort of a co-artistic director and manage the company, you basically work around the clock. There's no two ways about it.
Connecting with the arts community here in Stouffville has been key.
We usually do some kind of community involvement to provide some integration.
For us, art that doesn't interact with community or society, I think is questionable for us.
I got introduced to dance when I was very young. My parents were actually fraught with terror because I was so shy. My mother thought, well, what are we going to do? We have to help this kid somehow. So they thought, well, if she had to get up in front of people and perform, maybe one day she'd get over it.
My father had a sheep station there, and I grew up basically, I don't know, what was my life? My life was guns, sheep, more guns.
I was a big social dancer in high school when disco was in. So I hung out at the disco clubs all the time, and that was great fun. So there was a natural inclination to dance. I mean, I really enjoyed it.
So I headed off to Los Angeles in the fall of '79. And it was there I worked with Youth with a Mission. And it was there that I found out they had a school of the performing arts in Canada.
Beautiful. That was best yet.
Anyway, a Canadian mime company came over to Australia touring, and I was recommended to work with them, so I did actually go with them, and they just said, oh wow, you have a lot of talent, raw talent. Why don't you come to Canada to study? Well, okay, so I thought I'd come to Canada.
So I started connecting with people on campus who had been dancers, and we just started doing fun stuff, at their pub nights and stuff like that.
When I came to Canada, I started doing movement, and I fell into La Barre, and I went and studied mime, and I did a lot of other type of training. And then I got really excited about the whole idea of communicating through movement, how movement could be used to sway people, to bring out emotions, things like that.
So off I went. April Fool's Day was the first day of the school in 1980 when I came to Canada. And the first day I laid my eyes on this crazy Australian who situated himself in the front of the classroom so you could look at everybody. And I thought, wow, look at that guy. And the rest is history.
That summer, a neighbor asked me to go see a show at the University of Waterloo, which I did, and that's where I met James and Cynthia. It was the organization that they were working with in Cambridge, and that's how we connected initially. So I went to that school after I graduated.
I asked him, I go, well, why did you come all the way to Canada from Australia? He goes, well, I'm going to take over this school and run it. I go, wow, have you told the guy who's running the school? Well, no. So that was pretty funny. But in fact, that's what we did. We got married, took over that school, and ran it for 10 years.
I was actually the dean or the principal of the school. And there was more and more complaints coming about how it was becoming more autocratic, how there was this feeling like creativity had to serve a certain mandate or pre-prescribed mandate. And I was finding myself way back, flipping back to when I was a youngster, this whole idea that I wanted to be different. And here I was in an institute where I had to be political.
And that's when we started to integrate a lot more than just, jazz, ballroom, tap, all the sort of the show dances. That's where we became much more theater and mime and storytelling and narrative. And so that's where we were merging all. So everything now is coming to interconnection now. And I love that.
It was really a learning time and a preparing time for creating what we do now, creating productions, because that was the main crux of the school, and that's where again we met Jack.
When I met up with Jack and of course Cynthia, my wife, we said, well, why don't we break away and start our own company, Motus O Dance Theatre, what became Motus O. And so there was a few of us, a handful, who said, yeah, let's do this. And we broke away. And looking back, I think we were really quite frightened. We were in our late 20s, we were breaking away, I had 3 kids. So there was a lot at stake.
So in order for the vision to really take off, we felt we needed to leave Youth with a Mission, and that's when we moved to Stouffville, outside of Toronto, so that we could be near Toronto, because we just felt that was the smartest place to eventually find other dancers and be closer to a dance community.
It was a conscious decision not to live downtown Toronto because we wanted to find our own voice. We thought we'd be heavily influenced if we were in the downtown scene, the Toronto scene. And we knew we weren't like that. They have brilliant companies, modern companies and ballet companies in Toronto. They didn't need any more. So this was a good time for us to find. And we knew also we were very eclectic in our approach. We all come from very different backgrounds, and so we knew by these eclectic backgrounds we would have something different to offer.
When we started this, we thought we were smart enough to know that it's good to get advice. Just ask people, what the hell did you do, or what did you think you would do differently? So we spoke to a gentleman at the Ryerson University who was running the dance department at the time. He says, go look at the people that you admire in your field and see if that's the lifestyle you want to live in 20 years. And there were other circumstances by why we moved to Stouffville, but in my mind that was one of the major ones, is that a lot of the people we admired were still, after 20 years or 30 years in the industry, were still living hand to mouth. And we just thought, well, we don't want to do that.
Yeah, Stouffville, we basically, both James and Jack got a job in Markham, so we drew a 45-minute radius around Markham and thought, well, started looking for a house in our price range.
James, Cynthia, and myself, when we met, I had the big idea, the big financial plan was to, the recession was creeping in. I thought, oh, well, why don't we all just buy a house together?
We moved into Stouffville, we took a mortgage, and we thought, well, in 20 years, we want to have paid off the house. We want that type of security. We want, whatever comes with a day job as far as dental, insurances, things like that. Plus, with Cindy and I, we wanted a family. So kids are expensive, so that takes a certain security.
And we found this 4-bedroom house in Stouffville because Jack was going to live with us, and he said, I love you guys, but I really don't want to bunk up with your kids. So yeah, of course. So we moved in, and that caused a bit of a stir.
Yeah, well, it's taken a while to work it out. I think part of it is that all of us had a natural desire to live in a community, or to live in communal living. That is a lot easier to talk about than to actually live.
Well, because you did have to reevaluate, is this worth it? Like, you like the fridge a lot cleaner than I like it, and or whatever it was. But we knew we needed each other to do it, how we wanted to do it. And so we each had something to bring to the pie.
We all worked full-time jobs, 5 days a week, and then we took one evening and one Saturday for several years, and that's what we were committed to.
And eventually we moved it up to 2 days and one night a week. And every week for 2 years, that's what we did. We rehearsed just on those days.
And the funny thing was, so much of the company grew within our household, doing dishes. That was our meeting time. It was really funny. It was just really it was always on the fly, vacuuming, dusting, here we are, oh, what about, and yeah, I think we should, and that's how it was. It was just, we didn't have set meetings. It was just always on the go as part of our daily life. It wasn't a separate life, very integrated.
In any community or any collaborative endeavor, everyone needs to know that they're contributing in some valuable way that the other partners can't contribute. And Cindy in costumes, Jack, his ability to organise, and he has that wonderful left-right brain thing going all the time. Me and well, whatever. I can contribute, I'm sure, in lots of ways. But again, it wasn't a conscious thing, but in reality, that has been part of the success. Because without that, without the business sense, there is nothing. It's just good ideas.
I think most mothers go through a guilt complex. You don't think you ever do quite enough for your kids, and it seemed like, especially in the beginning, all the time and extra time, because we had to fit it around everything else,